Good afternoon, folks. This is Blu Laker. This is Radio Tribune in Las Vegas, Nevada at 717 South 9th Street. And we welcome you here today to talk about some very interesting information about the work versus welfare trade-off. Yes, work versus welfare trade-off. How many people do you know that are taking welfare either because they can't find a job or they don't want a job and they continue to live off of welfare at the expense of other people? Well, you probably know a few of them, but maybe they haven't told you that. Maybe they have kept that as a secret because they don't really want to be exposed. But there's plenty of people out there that could be working that are collecting welfare and therefore become a liability to the state. Now, it's interesting that we have a choice between being an asset or a liability. And you might say, well, those choices are limited. It may be for certain seniors, it may be for people with handicaps. But even the people with handicap usually can do something functional. And because of that, we have to evaluate the welfare system itself. And is it fair? And is it necessary? In some cases, you could say, well, it's absolutely necessary because people would die. Well, let me ask you a question, since I just had someone that I know die, and he had struggled through a couple of operations and everything in the past. Bottom line is he died. Now, he wasn't a welfare recipient. He did have Social Security. And so we can't count him and say, well, could he have worked? Well, maybe he could have, but he had a lot of interruptions in his life. And perhaps those interruptions were too traumatic for him to continue to work. He had worked the majority of his life. And as many people, didn't have a lot of possessions. And all he was looking for was a continuation of life. But at some point in time, the continuation of life is almost not necessary. Because what are we continuing? What are we contributing when we get to a point where we cannot function anymore? And we all know when we have a broken arm and we can't lift anything for a while, and that's something that you can get over. But a brain hemorrhage or something like that, that's a little bit different. And then we have to look at the cost that's associated with making the fixes if they're doable. In this particular case, this gentleman went through about 10, maybe 12 days of visits in the hospital and various surgeries and so forth, and he just wasn't able to make it. Didn't have the strength to make it. So the bottom line is this: there was an expense with all of that. And I believe that he did have insurance, so that isn't going to pass on to his wife. But suppose he didn't have the insurance. Well, first of all, they probably wouldn't have admitted him. Yeah, that's right. He was an American. In order to get into these hospitals today, you have to have insurance, you have to have somebody that's a responsible party that's going to take care of the bill at the end of your visit. Some people just do not have the means for that to happen. And so they're put on the unofficial, of course it's unofficial, it's not even a list of sorts, but they've been given an ultimatum, either pay up or die. Not a very good choice, is it? Well, again, we're going to be talking about work versus the trade-offs and the analysis of total level of welfare benefits by the states. And what's interesting is this was put together by a fellow by the name of Michael Tanner and Charles Hughes, and it's a work versus trade-off issues of 2013, 3 years ago. The analysis of total level of welfare benefits by state. So it goes into each of the states, and surprisingly, each of the states is different. The current welfare system provides such a high level of benefits that it acts as a disincentive for work. Welfare currently pays more than a minimum wage job in 35 states, even after accounting for earned income tax credit, and in 13 states it pays more than $15 an hour. If Congress and state legislators are serious about reducing welfare dependence and rewarding work, they have to consider strengthening welfare work requirements, removing exemptions and narrowing the definition of work. Moreover, states should consider ways to shrink the gap between the value of welfare and work by reducing current benefit levels and tightening eligibility requirements. In 1995, the Cato Institute published a groundbreaking study, The Work versus Welfare Trade-off, which estimated the value of the full package of welfare benefits available to a typical recipient in each of the 50 states and the District of Columbia. It found that not only did the value of such benefits greatly exceed the poverty level, but because welfare benefits are tax-free, their dollar value was greater than the amount of take-home income a worker would receive from an entry-level job. Interesting, isn't it? Since then, many welfare programs have undergone significant changes, including the 1996 welfare reform legislation that ended the Aid to Families with Dependent Children program and replaced it with the Temporary Assistance to Needy Family program. Accordingly, this paper examines the current welfare system in the same manner as the 95 paper. Welfare benefits continue to outpace the income that most recipients can expect to earn from an entry-level job. Amazing, isn't it? Well, recently I decided that because I had a health issue, I wanted to go to work and do something because my business was in problems. And so I decided that because I had lost some weight and I wanted to regain that weight and build some muscle, because I was like, not necessarily skin and bones, but uncomfortable with the way I looked. So I took a job as a stocking clerk in a service station. And I have never, ever in my life worked for minimum wage. But that's what the job paid. And the reason I took it was simple. I had a job that I could build my strength back up again with, and a job that paid something, rather than me going to a gym and working out and having to do the same thing and then paying them. So it was kind of a trade-off for me. But the highest level of benefits that was in the District of Columbia, followed by Massachusetts. In 11 states, welfare pays more than the average pre-tax first-year wage for a teacher. In 39 states, it pays more than the starting wage for a secretary. And in the most generous states, in 3 most generous states, a person on welfare can take home more money than an entry-level computer programmer. Interesting, a computer programmer has to go to school and learn. It's not an easy process, and yet people on welfare can take home more money. Table 1 shows the total value of welfare benefits by states, as well as the relative change since 1990 in 18 states. The total value of welfare benefits have declined in inflation-adopted terms since our previous work, while it has risen in the other 32 states and the District of Columbia. Moreover, a recipient who leaves welfare for work will have to pay taxes on his or her wages. To some degree, those taxes are offset by tax credits such as the Earned Income Tax Credit. Interesting. They talk about the child tax credit. They talk about all the others, but you know the bottom line is this. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that if you're going to get paid more or equivalent for doing nothing, then why would anyone with even common sense take a job? Not very encouraging, not very demanding of people to go out and find a job. And you can say, well, how can they find a job? Well, they can find jobs. It may not be exactly what they want, just like it wasn't exactly what I wanted. But I took the job because, again, I was doing something to regain my health. That's the first thing. And the second thing is they paid me money to do it. And that's why I took it. And if the benefits are like that in other situations, then we can find that. That there is opportunity for us to take some of these people off the welfare and put them back to work, where they become assets rather than liabilities. You see, since they don't have to pay taxes on the money that they receive, when they go back to work, they all of a sudden look at their paycheck and say, "What's this?" No parity, is there? No parity. There are currently 126 separate federal anti-poverty programs defined as either means assistance or programs that are explicitly identified as intent to fight poverty. Most welfare programs are mean-tested programs that provide and aid directly to the low-income persons in the form of cash, food, housing, medical care, and so forth, with eligibility based on the recipient's income. The remaining programs are either community-targeted programs, which provide aid to communities that have large numbers of poor people or are economically distressed, or categorical programs which base eligibility for benefits on belonging to a needy or designated group, such as migrant workers. Or the homeless. Some welfare programs are well known, others are barely heard of, even in Washington overall. Overall, these programs cost roughly $668.2 billion annually. In addition, state and local programs spend an additional $284 billion fighting poverty. Clearly, no one receives benefits from all these programs. Indeed, many federal welfare programs are so small or so narrowly targeted that few receive the benefits. Yet, many recipients do receive benefits from multiple programs. For the purpose of this study, we assume that our profile family received the following benefits. Temporary assistance for needy families. That's called, almost sounds like TANF, T-A-N-F, is the primary U.S. cash benefit program for the poor, and is the program that is most often associated with welfare, created in 1996 as part of the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, better known as welfare reform. TANF is the successor to AFDC. The program provides cash payments and other supportive services to needy families. The program is financed through a combination of federal funds in the form of block grants to states and state funds. Each state determines its benefit levels and, within certain federal guidelines, eligibility levels. One hypothetical family would be eligible for TANF in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. As table shows, the most generous TANF benefits are available in Alaska. $923 per month followed by California, Mississippi, and Mississippi is the least generous, since stating only $170. Now, comparing these benefit levels with ADC benefits in 1995 shows that Maryland was the only state in which cash benefits increased on an inflation-adjusted basis, while they declined in all the rest. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, provides a voucher to low-income families for the purchase of food. Long known as food stamps, the program was renamed in 2008, in part because paper vouchers or stamps had been discontinued in favor of electronic debit cards. The program is fully financed by the federal government and benefit levels are uniform nationally, with the exception of Alaska and Hawaii, where benefits are higher to reflect the higher cost of food. These benefits, or those benefits, are set so that eligible families should not have to pay more than 30% of their net income on a food package, equal to the Agricultural Department's Thrifty Food Plan, adjusted for household size and inflation. Because eligibility for TAMP conveys automatic eligibility for SNAP, our hypothetical family would be eligible for the program in all 50 states. However, because the family cash benefits vary by state under TAMP, the amount that they receive in SNAP benefits also varies by state. A lower TAMP benefit means higher SNAP benefits. Therefore, excluding the special cases of Alaska and Hawaii, the level of SNAP benefits were in the states with low TAMP benefits such as Texas, Arkansas, and Tennessee. Conversely, the lowest SNAP benefits are in states with high TAMP benefits like New Hampshire, Vermont, and California. Medicare, Title 14 of the Social Security Act, was started in 1976 as the nation's primary program for providing health care to the poor. Adults and children in low-income families make up about 3/4 of Medicare recipients. But the remaining quarter, primarily elderly parents receiving long-term care and disability individuals, account for a majority, almost 64% of Medicare spending. The study includes only spending on low-income individuals and families, not long-term care expenditures. As with TAMP, Medicare is administered by the states under the broad federal guidelines and is jointly funded by federal and state governments. Federal funding averages 59.4% of states' program cost, but ranges from 50 to 73% in 2013, depending on specific state minimum eligibility. Yes, I'm reading. Levels that are set by the federal government, but states have the option to expand that eligibility. The federal minimum ensures that individuals eligible for TAMP, including our hypothetical family, are also eligible for Medicare in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. There are several different difficulties in measuring the value of Medicare to an individual recipient. First, pre-recipient Medicare spending varies state by state, in part because of variance in the actual benefits provided by the state. That is, federal government requires Medicare to cover certain medical services. However, states have the option to cover other services as well. In addition, states have wide discretion in determining the amount that health care providers are reimbursed for those services. Most important, the annual benefit is not paid to the recipient, but directly to the provider. It would be unfair, therefore, to assume that the benefit to the recipient is simply equal to the pre-recipient cost of the program. In calculating the value of Medicare benefits for our hypothetical family, we cap the value of those benefits at a level equal to the premium cost for an insurance policy that provides equal benefits. As table shows, in 21 states, the per recipient cost of Medicare exceeds that cap. Housing assistance. Housing assistance is provided through many programs, 3 of which are included in this study. public housing, housing assistance, also known as Section 8, and other rent subsidies. The amount of assistance varies not just by state, but within states, with higher income amounts available in urban regions where rents and housing prices are higher. In making our calculations, we have chosen the average assistance level in each state rather than in the high urban or low non-urban assistance levels. In several states, housing benefits have been limited in recent years for recipients of other welfare programs. In part, this has been a reaction to reduced federal housing funds. However, it has also been a policy decision on the part of state lawmakers to require recipients of benefits such as TAMP to use their cash benefits to pay off or to pay for their own housing. On a state-by-state basis, housing participation rates vary widely from a high of 81.8% in North Dakota to states like Virginia, Arkansas, and Idaho, where virtually no TAMP families receive housing assistance. Participations in each type of assistance also vary widely. North Dakota has the highest participation under normal assistance at 68.7%, with the highest participation in public housing was in South Dakota at 34.2%. Table 10 shows the percentages of welfare recipients receiving housing assistance in each state, as well as the change in participation rates since 1995. As a result, we have chosen not to include housing assistance in the benefits package for our hypothetical family. In any state where fewer than 10% of the welfare population received such benefits. It is worth noting, however, that except in states that have made a decision to exclude TAMP recipients from most housing assistance is generally allocated through a wanting list or waiting list. That means that the longer the person is on welfare, the more likely the person is to receive housing. Thus, participation rates are reduced by people who may be on welfare for only a few weeks or months. Among other long-term welfare recipients, which is the group most important for us to analyze, participation rates are likely to be far higher than the national-wide average shown on Table 11. It shows the value of welfare for those recipients who receive housing benefits for all 50 states, regardless of participation levels. Now, you would think that maybe that would be enough, but no, we still have more. We have utility assistance. There are several programs at both federal and state level designed to help low-income households pay for the heating, oil, electricity, and other utilities. In 2013, our profile household would have been eligible for utility assistance such as federal low-income housing energy assistance program. While not all low-income houses receive utility assistance, participation levels for households with income comparable to our profile family average almost 50%, sufficient for inclusion in the hypothetical benefits package. In addition, the actual benefit a household receives varies according to availability and prioritization of need. Therefore, the benefits included in this study is the average benefit for the recipient household at each jurisdiction, excluding crisis assistance. Those benefits are shown in Table 12. Now, we also have a few more programs. Yes, I know you think that we have already, but we have women, infants, and children programs. The Women, Infants, and Children program provide federal grants to states for supplemental food, health care, referrals and nutrition education for low-income, pregnant, breastfeeding, and non-breastfeeding postpartum women, and to infants and children up to age 5 who are found to be at nutritional risk. In most WIC state agencies, beneficiaries receive checks or vouchers to purchase specific foods each month that are designed to supplement their diets or occasionally accrued foodstuffs. The actual food package depends on the age of the children, whether the mother is pregnant, and whether a postpartum mother is nursing. The food package generally includes milk, cheese, eggs, infant formulas, cereals, fruit, and vegetables. The children in our profile household would have qualified for WIC in 2010, while not all eligible low-income households receive WIC benefits. Approximately 61% of the eligible family participants in the program nationwide, which justifies including 65% of the eligible families participated in the program nationwide, which justifies including WIC in the hypothetical benefit package. The annual benefits a household receives varies on the basis of availability and prioritization of need. Therefore, the benefits included in this study is the average benefit for a 2-child household in each jurisdiction to show. Well, we're running out of time for today's program, but the total value of benefits and so forth, and then comparing welfare to work, that we can't handle today because we just don't have enough time. But what I can say is this, that with all these subsidized programs out there on the market, here's the question. Do you think that influences political preferences? Well, I would say that they do. I would say that welfare and those that are on it are not going to bite the hand that's feeding them. And when we see so many people that are on welfare, and we begin to understand that that's their bread and butter, we can understand why perhaps politics is slanted in one direction or another, because we know that the welfare benefits and so forth have been created by the Democrats, and that they fly on those people and make them understand that their benefits can be cut or cut off if those packages are removed. Are they going to be removed? Well, they can be. It certainly means that we need to do something. When we talk about more money in subsidies than we are willing to spend for the infrastructure to provide the jobs and the opportunities for people willing to work, and with benefits that would be beneficial to them and make them assets rather than liabilities. So until tomorrow, this is Blu Laker at Radio Tribune in Las Vegas, and I want to remind you to take a look at the Las Vegas Tribune. That's a weekly publication that we put out here, and it's full of good, useful information, and you should take advantage of that because there's some great discounts and great availability. So until tomorrow, this is Blu Laker. Have a great day.